Hello, everybody. My name is Julie Christiansen, and I am the creator of the Anger Solutions program. People know me as the Anger Lady. I did not make that one up myself, but they keep calling me that, so I'm running with it. I want to thank you for joining me on this Zoom chat today. I am going to give you a brief overview of the Anger Solutions program. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Anger Solutions program, tell you a little bit about what it's about, and then I will try to answer questions as they come in. There are some questions that are frequently asked. I will answer those, and then if anyone has questions that they'd want to pose, feel free to do that as well. So without any further ado, I guess I will just start telling you about the Anger Solutions program. So the Anger Solutions program was a response to the lack of anger management services that were available in, say, the early 90s. So, think it's 1990, 1991. There's really nothing available out there. There were a couple of books that were very popular. And of course, the terminology anger management had just become a thing, if you want to call it that. Harriet Lerner had come out with the book, The Dance of Anger. And there was a book that had been written by Patricia Jakubowski. Oh my gosh, probably I think the original publication date was 1978. And her book is entitled The Assertive Option. When I went looking for anger management resources, those were the only two books I could find. And in addition to that, there was the YWCA Discovering Life Skills workbook, which had some exercises in it that had to do with anger and assertiveness. So as a young mental health worker trying to find resources to assist clients who had anger difficulties, there wasn't much out there. And so I started to do some research and dig around and see what was available, what I could use to assist my clients. And over quite a few years of researching and just digging around for resources and that sort of thing, I developed what would be loosely called today the Anger Solutions program. One of the things about Anger Solutions that I think was really important in the early days was that I wasn't just looking for something to help people correct their behavior. Back in the day when I was a young mental health worker, there were lots of large posters that we could get for our offices, and it was that standard thing, take a deep breath and count to 10. And each of those seconds from 1 to 10 had a question that was sort of self-evaluatory. And I liked that notion that while I'm taking a deep breath and I'm counting to 10, I'm not just sort of waiting to get to 10 and then I'm going to go finish what I started, which is to punch somebody out or tell them off or lash out in some other way to help express my anger. But I would actually think about the outcomes that I wanted and how to achieve them. So one of the key things that distinguishes Anger Solutions from traditional anger management programs, and this came pretty early on in the process of developing the system, was this idea that we're not looking to change behavior because anger is not behavior, right? Anger is an emotion. And so the traditional models of anger management, they focus primarily on the behaviors that people exhibit when they're feeling angry. And they're looking to stop those behaviors. So they're looking to either decrease the frequency of those behaviors, decrease the intensity of those behaviors, or to discontinue those behaviors altogether. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just think that if we're really going to be effective in creating behavioral change, we first have to deal with the attitudes that inform those behaviors. So this is where this notion of belief being the basis of action comes from. So one of the core underlying principles of Anger Solutions is this: belief is the basis of action. What you believe determines how you behave. And so if your belief systems are such that anger makes sense for you, I'm gonna rephrase that. Not that anger makes sense for you. Anger just is what it is. It's an emotion. But lashing out in anger makes sense for you. Swearing at someone, slamming doors, driving erratically, using physical violence, using verbal abuse, all those sorts of things. If those things make sense for you because of the belief system that you have, it will be very difficult for you to change that behavior. What needs to happen is for there to be a shift in your belief systems, a shift in your attitudes, and when those things change, the behavior changes with it. Okay, so that's the underlying principle of anger solutions. So the program itself was used initially with people who have severe mental health issues, expanded to use with persons who have brain injury, adapted again to work with individuals, to work with couples, to work with children. And as a result, the program is very flexible. It's very malleable so that regardless of the type of client you're working with, it should have some effect. We have a slew of resources. I pulled what I had out of my library. So I wrote a book about the program. I know it's backwards, but there it is. And that this is more of a self-help type of tool, although many of the agencies who have certified in anger solutions use this as part of the resources that they provide for their clients. So the clients typically get a workbook, and they work through the exercises in the book with the facilitator. Facilitators, certified facilitators, certified trainers also get a copy of the facilitator's manual, and this has all of the tools, all of the resources, all the information that you need to effectively run an anger solutions group, and it can be adapted to work with individuals. What else do I got here? So I also have adapted a children's program, which is going to be rewritten again, not the content so much, but the formatting and some of the exercises. One of the key things to note about Anger Solutions is that Anger Solutions is a living, breathing program. This is one of the things that, in terms of feedback that I get from other therapists, facilitators, trainers, they love the fact that the program is constantly changing, is constantly evolving. As we find new exercises, new concepts, new theories that really fit with what we're trying to teach, we adapt the programs and we incorporate that new information. The other thing that's neat about these programs is that I work with so many facilitators and trainers across the country, and they have some really terrific ideas. I love to hear from them. I love to hear what they're doing. And when I can see that what they're doing makes a lot of sense and it's working for their client base, I will often, with their permission, incorporate those things into the program. So that's where this is at. This is in a stage of redevelopment right now. And it's still available and still usable as it is. However, some of the digital resources have changed, that sort of thing. Like in this particular program, the Anger Solutions for Kids, there is a CD-ROM with all of your digital supplies. Well, guess what? CD-ROMs are becoming obsolete. So, you know, it's things like that that we're constantly working on and developing to make sure that the program stays in touch and up to date with the times. One more thing. The other thing that I have is Anger Solutions style cards. This is a great example of what happens when I continue to work with the facilitators and trainers. One of my certified trainers works in First Nations housing and works a lot with seniors. And she said, I can't do one of these exercises, the exercise where you have to ask people to get up and move around the room and point to an anger style that best describes them. She says, in our culture, that's not acceptable. It's not respectful. I need a way that we can do this within the circle. And so what we came up with was Anger Solutions style cards. So these cards are distributed to each person in the group. There's a descriptor of the Anger Solution style on the back, And then each uh, participant in the group can collaboration constantly doing with our therapists, our facilitators, and our trainers to make sure that we are providing the best service that we can to our clientele. So let's go back to some more questions about anger solutions. So we talked about belief being the basis of action, and that is one of the core underlying principles of the program. One of the other things that's really important about anger solutions is that we are very, very client focused. Everything I do is client focused. But anger solutions is very client focused in the sense that as facilitators, when you come to the training session, I'm going to stress with you that as a facilitator, it is not your job to identify or to exaggerate the power differential between yourself and the clientele. I'm more about being on a level playing field with clients, because I realized as I was going through developing the program, I recognized in myself that there were certain ways that I was expressing anger that were not healthy for me. So even as I was developing the program, it was a growth and a learning experience for me. And then when I started running groups and teaching other people how to run groups, I found that the groups were most successful when the facilitator stepped in and out of the role of participant. So we call this in Anger Solutions active participation. And active participation means that you're going to try this stuff on when you're doing the training. You're going to try it out. You're going to see what it feels like to participate in some of these exercises, so that when you're facilitating a group, you can then say to clients, you know what, I tried this exercise. It was really cathartic. It was really useful. It helped me to gain some insights about my own behavior, those sorts of things. So we're not talking about full disclosure of your personal life. We don't want you telling all the details of your ugly divorce or whatever, you know, you've been through in your past. It's not about that. But a certain level of disclosure is important in order to build trust, to establish rapport with your group, and to ensure that they are willing to take the risks to do some of the exercises, because they can trust that you've been through the process as well, and you're walking with them as they go through it. You're not pulling them along, kicking and screaming. You're actually walking through the processes with them. That's really important. One of the other things that I mentioned already, but it is such a big deal, and I don't think we realize how much we do this, is we mistake angry behavior for emotion. We blur the lines between the two. Anger is how we feel. There's nothing you can do really about how you feel except for to solve the problem that created the feeling in the first place. And so if we are going to really resolve anger, then the focus and the goal of any activity we engage in should be towards resolving the problem, right? We need to focus on the problem and resolve the problem. And many times we need people to help us resolve the problem. What tends to happen is that because human beings haven't really been taught how to resolve anger effectively, is that we equate the problem with a person, and then we attack the person, right? So what Anger Solutions is aiming to do is to teach people a new decision-making model and strategies on how to effectively problem solve. That's really what we're teaching them to do. We're teaching them how to be assertive. We're teaching them how to frame their language in such a way that it encourages other people to work with them in solving the problem rather than to work against them. We teach them how to be collaborative. We teach them how to listen, how to pay attention, how to do that, and separating their angry feelings from the actions involved in solving the problems. These are really key principles that are not necessarily taught in a way that sticks in traditional anger management. So when we think about the statistics that are related with traditional anger management, number one, is very difficult to measure in terms of success. And the reason it's difficult to measure its success is because everybody's doing something different. There's no standardized anger management program outside of, let's say, Anderson and Anderson's program that's come out of California. Oh, I believe there's one other model that is embraced by Dr. Ari Novick. He's also in the States somewhere. But aside from that, it's not standardized, okay? And so it's hard to measure something that isn't standardized. So the best study that I could find, and to my knowledge there hasn't been another one done since, was a meta-analysis that was done in the 90s, and it was done on various CBT-based programs focusing on anger management. So they were all differently designed. They all probably had different outcome measures, but this was the best they could do. So they did this meta-analysis, and this is what they found, that they had about a 67% retention rate. So of all the people who attended the program, only 67% completed. And I'm not sure what the parameters were for success, but by this meta-analysis standards, they expected between 70 and 76% of success. Like I say, I don't know what that means. I don't know what success looks like because it wasn't clearly identified in the study. I don't know if that just means that they successfully completed the program, or does that mean that, you know, after 3 months that they were still practicing some of the tools that they had learned, or does it mean that when they reported back to whoever mandated them to go to the program that they deemed it successful? We don't know. So when we compare that to Anger Solutions, now we've been collecting data since, trying to think back, I want to say 2003, but I feel like we've been doing it for longer. I started developing the assessment tools that we have in the late 90s, and probably didn't get it refined until, yes, I would say about 2001, and we probably began implementing it between 2001 and 2003. So let's just say 2003 to be safe. But since 2003, we've been collecting data. We collect tombstone information, we collect you know, information about gender and age and referral sources and all those sorts of things. But we also measure baselines at intake and baselines at exit. And then we have a series of questions that we ask. I can probably pull it up for you here. A series of questions that we ask to get information about that person's anger experience, about how they express anger, where they express anger, the type of style that they choose, and if they're aware as to whether or not that anger style is appropriate or inappropriate, effective or ineffective. We ask questions about anger awareness. How do you know that you're getting angry? And we ask questions about triggers. So let me just show you this. So this is it here, Anger Solutions Intake Survey. It doesn't take long to fill out, but there are in total 10 questions. Okay, so we've been collecting this data at intake and then collecting similar data. All the questions are the same except for the final questions here at the bottom. There are intake specific questions and exit specific questions. And so we've been collecting this data for a long time. What's really interesting about Anger Solutions is that our retention rate is exceptional. We have managed to maintain, and this is across the country with various organizations reporting in, we've managed to maintain a retention rate close to 80%. Sometimes it dips a little lower, sometimes it's higher, sometimes we have 100% retention, which is outrageous, okay? When you think about the fact that people in jail, people who are incarcerated, they have nowhere else to go. They're not going anywhere else. They have nowhere else to go. They're mandated to anger management programs, and the retention rate in Canadian prisons for anger management programs is 49%. Just let that sit for a second. 49%. Okay. So when people who are incarcerated and have nowhere else to be are dropping out at a rate of over 50%, that's got to tell us something. When we have people in the community who, some of them are coming of their own free will, some of them are mandated by the courts, some of them are coming because it's part of the programming in the agency that they're getting services from, whatever it may be. These people are coming and they're enjoying the program so much, they're getting so much out of the program that our retention rates are close to 80% and have remained at close to 80% for almost 20 years. That's pretty impressive. The other thing that's really interesting is our success rate. So we ask very, very specific questions. So our exit questions help us to measure the immediate success of the program, and then we do follow-ups. I personally continue to do follow-ups with clients, not all of them, but I have my few test clients, those that I've written case studies about, that I continue to stay in touch with. And some of those clients I've been in touch with now for 2003, 16 years, right? And so we're getting long-term data. And so here are the questions that we ask. I express anger more appropriately since participating in this program, true or false? I choose more appropriate methods for expressing my anger. I'm more aware of the physical indicators that I'm getting angry. I have changed the way I deal with situations that cause anger. Do you notice that question? The way I deal with situations that cause anger, because this is a problem-solving course. I feel like I can cope more effectively with anger in my life, and other people notice that I'm dealing with anger more effectively. So these are all true and false. So this is how we measure the outcomes. It's not the only way we measure the outcomes, but this is how we measure the outcomes using this particular tool. We also use the clinical anger scale by Dr. William Snell out of, what university is he? University of Missouri, I can't remember, shame on me. Yeah, Missouri, Southeast Missouri State University. Dr. William E. Snell Jr., he's given us the permission to use this particular test. It's very much like the Beck battery of tests, 21 questions, choices from A to D. The scoring is the same, 0 to 3, and depending on your score, you can come up with mild, moderate, or severe clinical anger. This is a little bit more detailed. It looks at how anger interferes with health, appetite, fatigue, sleep, feelings of hostility, persistent angry feelings, interest in other people, angry expressions, does it interfere with sexual libido, does it interfere with work, performance, all those sorts of things. So this is a really good tool to use as well. And then lastly, we use the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. So the Rosenberg self-esteem scale is, what do we call this? It's almost like public domain. People are allowed to use it with permission. And so this also helps us to measure our success. All of these tools have showed us that when people complete the program, the behaviors stick. Okay, so this is really important because we've shifted attitudes. Because the attitudes have shifted, the behaviors are sticking. It's not like when you go to Weight Watchers and for as long as you're going in to get weighed, you stick to the program, and then as soon as you stop going in for your weigh-ins, you start going back to your old habits. This is something that sticks over time. Once the attitudes shift, the behaviors shift, the problem-solving methods take hold, and then people just start making better choices as they move forward. So in terms of the surprise outcomes, we have had a decrease in recidivism. We've seen decreases in stress-related illness. We've seen increase in overall quality of life or experience of overall quality of life. We've seen higher employability. We've seen improved relationships in terms of couples and marriages. So this program is super, super effective. I can't say enough about it. And it's not because my face is on the cover. It's because the data, the evidence speaks for itself. So I think I've answered most of the common questions. I have a few minutes left, and I'll answer a couple more. Oh, hi, Angela. Thanks for joining us. I'm just getting ready to answer a couple of questions before we log off at noon. So one of the other questions that often comes up with regards to this program is around who can participate in the program. If I'm running this as a group, who is this program for? And the easy answer to that is anybody. This question is for anybody. This program in particular was written for adult audiences, people aged 18 and up. We have adapted a youth program. I personally, I co-authored the youth program, but I don't use it because this is just as effective with youth as it is with adults. I think the program that we co-created was written for youth justice, and that is a very specific target market, and they didn't want to do as much work in terms of getting additional resources. So we put lots of extra resources into the youth program, but it's very wordy, it's very cumbersome for me, and so I don't particularly like to use it, but to each his own. We can use it with kids. Again, this kids program was developed specifically for children aged 9 and younger. However, I have a long-time anger solutions trainer who has worked with children of people with addictions, and she has used exercises from this program or from this manual to work with children as young as 8, and they have gotten it. So it's very simple. It's not complicated work. It's just very systematic, and it has very clear targets in terms of what we want to accomplish with the program. Another question that is often asked is around the evidence base. So yes, this program is evidence-based. As I mentioned earlier, we have been recording data I've been recording since 2001. Most of our trainers and facilitators have been recording data since 2003. Some of those organizations that I've been working with, what's the word that I'm looking for? They faithfully submit their data every year. Canadian Mental Health Association in Cornwall, they are just tickety-boo with sending in their data. Canadian Mental Health Association of Sault Ste. Marie is another. John Howard Society of Ottawa. I'm just trying to think. Parkland Crisis Shelter in Manitoba. Swan Valley in Manitoba, they also submit really regularly. There are several of our agencies that are certified who are just really, really good with submitting their data. And so once all that data comes in, hi Samantha, once all that data comes in, then it's easy for us to compile that and to establish that our statistics are for real. Now, I know that you guys are just clicking on. It's 11:59, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to continue chatting. I'm not sure if Zoom will allow me to continue once no. Yeah, I'm not sure it will. Once we hit noon, it may just cut me off. So if it does, I will start another chat immediately and try to get you back in. But are there any questions from either of you before we hit that time frame? I can't hear you guys.
I know I came in late, so.
Yeah, if you could turn up your speaker a little bit. Hello.
Hi. Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, so I know you can hear me. I can't hear you at all. Can you? Yeah, I'm still not hearing you.
I'm still.
The good news is it's 12 o'clock and they haven't cut me off.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Okay, let me just,
Yeah,
I think my volume is up all the way.
I'm trying mine. Mine's up too. No, I don't know.
Okay, can you pull your headphones out and just talk into your speaker and see if that makes a difference?
Julie, can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes, I
Hi
can hear.
there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so sorry. I just happened to see this on LinkedIn, so I
Awesome.
jumped on it right away.
Could join
No
in.
clue. No clue what I was getting into, but am I hearing you saying that this was for children or?
No, well, it is. So this is the program I developed first, Anger
Hmm.
Solutions, and this was developed for an adult audience, for people with
Okay.
severe mental health issues. That's what I originally wrote it for. But
Hmm.
as the program developed and I started working with different audiences, then I did the kids program, did a youth program. But honestly, once you're certified in this, if you have any imagination whatsoever, you can adapt it for kids. You can adapt it for teens. It's really easy to use, and it's only written at about a grade 7 level anyway. Um,
Hmm.
so kids as young as 8 years old have worked out of the exercises from this book.
Okay.
But we just developed this one so that we could sell it differently as a package. So, working with kids in the community and that sort of thing, I could say to parents, look, it's going to be 6 sessions. We're going to play games. We're going to do crafts, that sort of, so all of that stuff is in here.
Hmm.
Um, right now it's on a CD-ROM and I'm rewriting it because CD-ROMs are obsolete. New.
Yep, I
So
believe it.
now I've got to start over and do it all digitally and set it up so people can access that information
Mhm.
online through the cloud instead of using the CD. So yeah.
I see. Okay. All right. So I know I came in late, so I guess more detailed about the program.
Yes,
Mhm.
so the program was developed back in the early 90s. I decided to make it into something that, I could market. I guess I started the business in 1997.
Mhm.
One of the things that I found when I was working with my clients was that there were no resources really specifically for anger management, right? And you'll
Mhm.
notice that I don't use the term anger management, I use anger solutions because anger management implies that you are changing behavior,
Mhm.
and anger is not a behavior.
Mm.
Anger is an emotion.
Right.
So I'm looking at, let's resolve the problems that made you angry. Your
Mhm.
anger will go away on its own. Let's change your attitudes and your belief systems, and then the way that you express anger will change,
Mhm.
right? So this is more a program about shifting beliefs, shifting attitudes, and teaching people how to effectively problem solve so that
Mhm.
when they are faced with something that makes them angry, they know what to do.
Right.
When the problem with traditional anger management is that if I'm trying to get you to change behavior, then
Mhm.
depending on the situation, your behavior may or may not fit. And if you're stuck in a situation where you don't have a choice of how to respond, you're going to be stuck and you won't know what to do. So I'll give you an example. So we have years and years ago, I was doing a training and this woman worked in a women's shelter and she said, I have these men who are like, well, when I'm angry, I just want to hit the guy. That's what I want to do. I
Mhm.
want to hit the guy, right? And so if she tells him to change his behavior and she only gives him one option,
Mhm.
what to do, take a deep breath, walk away. At the end of taking a deep breath and walking away, at the end of the day, he still wants to hit the guy,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
there's nothing has changed in his attitude.
Right.
He
Right.
hasn't learned how to solve the problem. So if we can shift those belief systems and change the ability to solve the problems, we in effect resolve the anger. right?
Mhm.
So it's a really different way of looking at things. But the cool thing is, I was mentioning before you jumped on, I think it was before you jumped on, about my one client that I've been following for 16 years. And the interesting thing about him is that he keeps battling with his addiction, right? That's a biochemical problem. He keeps
Mhm.
battling with his addiction. He's clean for a long time, and then he relapses, and then he's clean again and he relapses. But his attitude has not changed since he's completed Anger Solutions. He used to be
Mhm.
extremely violent. He was engaged in domestic violence. He would do spiteful things, steal money from his wife, and clean out the bank account so he could get drugs, all these sorts of things. He told me that he would see an old woman trying to shovel her driveway in the snow, and he would laugh and go, look at her, you know, sucks to be her, and go get another beer and take a drink, right? That was who he was. And now that his attitudes and his beliefs have shifted and he understands why he used to make the choices that he made, he's never gone back to that kind of behavior. And now he's the guy that sees somebody struggling and says, you go inside and make yourself a hot cocoa, I'll do this for you, right?
Oh.
So that's really cool. And we're talking 16 years after completing the program.
Mhm.
And so these are the kinds of stories that we get from people who say, you know, before I did this program, I used to have stress-related sickness all the time. I couldn't complete a marathon. I couldn't complete an Ironman, even though I'm in the best of health. I couldn't finish my races because I would end up vomiting. I'd be sick. And once they learned how to express their emotions more effectively and how to solve problems better, those symptoms went away. And then they were able to go ahead and complete the things that they wanted to do. You know, like, I'm not up for Ironman racing and all that foolishness. I'll just, I don't even want to watch that on TV. But here's this woman going out and doing these things, staying out for 24 hours, running for 24 hours, and completing the races. She started sending me pictures of her crossing the finish line and saying, this is me now, where I couldn't do this before. Now I'm able to complete it. So it really does make a difference for people in terms of the outcomes that they're achieving. And it's not short-term results, right? These are long-term results. So when you look at some of the agencies that offer anger management, what they're really doing in Canada anyways, I don't know how it is in the States, but in Canada, you get funding from the government to run a program.
Mhm.
And they want to know how many people attended, how many people finished, did they complete the work? That's it. So for them, their measurement of success is having people finish the program.
Mhm.
And you don't really get a sense of whether or not the program was helpful. So when you hear these stories coming out of the news of people who, there was one that just blew my mind. It was a woman was in her anger management class. The
Mhm.
facilitator was showing a movie, and she was talking through the movie. And so one of the other participants said, could you please stop talking because it's hard for me to hear? And the woman stabbed her in the class.
Wow.
In the class.
That's anger. Yeah.
Then there was another story of a man who completed his anger management classes, went to pick up his certificate, went to his ex-girlfriend's house to do the handoff for the child, got into a fight with the ex-girlfriend. The fight escalated out to the balcony. He pushed his ex-girlfriend and the baby flew out of her arms and fell off the balcony and died. This is the day he picked up his anger management certificate. You know what I'm saying? So what that says to me is that just because you attended a class doesn't mean that your behavior is changing.
Mhm.
All it means is that you showed up.
Right.
But with Anger Solutions, what happens is that as people engage and they actually participate in the programs, then it's almost as though they have no choice but to start making those changes because we're constantly challenging those attitudes. So it's really exciting for me to see what happens with Anger Solutions as our different agencies continue to run it moving forward. Sorry, I'm rambling. Are there any other questions? I'm shutting up.
So, are you going to tell me your name? Me? Oh, my name?
I hear voices. I hear voices, but I can't distinguish what you're saying. Can you speak up a little bit?
Can you
not done.
Right. Well, I'm not.
Samantha, it looks like you're trying to talk to me, but I can't hear what you're saying. There is a chat feature. If you'd like to type your message, that might be easier. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that, just on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you've got any questions for me, that'd be a good place to go, because I'm having a really difficult time hearing from either Angela or Samantha. Okay, I'm just hearing a little bit of rumblings in the back. Okay, so I think that I'll just give you another second or so. Oh, I hear typing.
Oh, that's me.
Okay. Yeah, Samantha, just if you've got a question, just type it, because I know you can hear me, and all I'm hearing is sort of just low-level background rumblings, but I'm not hearing your voice at all. So. That's funny. I can hear your keyboard, but I can't hear you. That's weird, right? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so I'm not sure what else I can say. Right, let me talk about the training, silly me. So the Anger Solutions training, we have 2 offerings that are coming up in August. The first, well, they're the same 3 days. So August 21st to 23rd of this year. What I've started doing, just to make it easier for me as the facilitator, is the Anger Solutions Facilitator Boot Camp is a 1-day intensive. So if you want to become a facilitator of Anger Solutions, in other words, you're going to learn how to facilitate the Anger Solutions group program. That is a 1-day intensive. That's the boot camp. That happens on August 21st. If you only want to do that course, you can pay just for that day. But if you want to become an Anger Solutions certified trainer, that's 3 days of training. So to become a trainer, you would do the boot camp anyway. So you do the day 1 intensive. And then there are 2 additional days that are focused on more in-depth exploration of the program, and then teaching you how to do what I do on the boot camp day, which is to train people to become facilitators. So if you become an Anger Solutions certified trainer, what that does is it certifies you to both run groups and to train other therapists in your agency or in your community. So this is how we've been able to disseminate Anger Solutions cross-country into different areas of the states and whatever, is because I have certified trainers in different regions who go out within their region and do trainings. So I don't have to continuously travel all over the place to facilitate boot camps. I've got trainers out there doing that on our behalf. So if you become a facilitator, you can run groups in your community or through your agency. If you're in private practice, you can run groups in your community, charge a fee for that. If you're doing it through your agency, I would recommend that you do not charge a fee if you're government funded, but just charge a small fee that covers the cost of the workbook, okay? Excuse me. As a certified trainer, then how the system works is the trainers notify me when they have a training date coming up, They let me know how many people they're expecting to show up to the training. I print and ship the materials to them, and they pay me for the materials. I charge them nothing else. This is a very altruistic kind of approach. It is not going to get me rich anytime soon. But what it means is that my trainers have a way to support their business or to bring money back into the agency to support their groups. And then more people get anger solutions in their hands, which is what I'm really concerned about. So we have, for example, a certified trainer who is First Nations, and he works only with First Nations communities. Excuse me. So whenever Dennis has a training event, he contacts me and he says, Julie, I'm doing a training. I'm doing it with this First Nation group, and I need this many workbooks and this many manuals. He tells me what he needs in materials. I do all that stuff for him. I generate the certificates. I sign them. I send them off to him. He pays me for the materials. He runs the training. He hands out the certificates. He distributes the licenses, because this is a licensed program, which I'll talk about that too. And then he carries on. So whatever money he makes from that training event is his outside of the overhead, which is what he pays to me. Okay? So that's how the certified trainer works. What I recommend for people who are working in an agency is that you should have at least one certified trainer in your agency, because if all you have is a trainer, if all you have is a facilitator, if that facilitator is sick, if that facilitator goes on mat leave, if that facilitator gets a better job, your agency is out of luck. You have a license to run a program, but you have nobody trained to run the program. But if you have a certified trainer on staff, that trainer can train all of the staff in the agency. And some agencies that I work with have made this mandatory. They expect you to have anger solutions training before you get hired. And if you don't have anger solutions training, they will make sure that their certified trainer trains you once you're hired. They expect everybody in the agency, whether they're doing the program or not, to be certified in it, so that they can make referrals, they can cross-refer, all those sorts of things. So it makes sense to have a certified trainer on staff, because it enables your agency to continue to have continuity in the program. Excuse me. So let me talk about licensing just briefly. So this is a licensed program. When you get certified as a facilitator, as a trainer, or a master trainer, you would get an annual license. The annual license is included in the training fee. So for certified facilitators, it's $397 to take the training. Your first year's license is included in that fee, along with all your materials. And then that license is renewable every year. If you're doing the certified trainer, it's $1197 for the 3 days of training, and again, the license is included. If you leave your agency, the agency keeps this is the tricky part, the agency paid for your training, right? So the agency owns the license, but the agency will not be able to do anything with it until they have someone else who's certified to run the program. If you're not certified, you can't run it. But if you leave the agency, all you would need to do is contact me and say, Julie, I no longer work for this agency. I need a license. And I send you the license, you're good to go. And if you need materials, I send you materials, you're good to go. So the training stays with you, but the license stays with whoever paid for it. So just be aware of that. If you're working for an agency, you may just want to pay for that yourself so that you can keep that control. Just saying. So the license right now is at $80 plus HST for those of you who live in Canada. I will warn you though, the license fees and the tuition fees for both the facilitator course and the certified trainer course are going up after the August event, because we've been holding these rates since about 2005. And as you know, inflation and the cost of paper and all of these things the cost of printing has increased exponentially since then. And so I had to buckle down and do a price change. But I'm going to honor my pricing right through till the end of August, and then September with the new season, the prices will go up. So keep that in mind. But as of right now, I'm honoring our older prices. So $397 for facilitator, $1197 for certified trainer. And if you're American, you even get a bigger discount because you're going to pay me in Canadian dollars, which means you get about a 38% discount on that. So that's a good deal. If you're Canadian, sorry, no breaks for you, but you will avoid the price increase when it comes. Okay. Samantha, do you have any questions now, or? Oh, your phone looks like it's muted. Okay. So I think this is probably a good point for me to jump off. I'm not sure if there are any further questions, but by all means, if there are any questions moving forward, I'm just going to put my email here. And certainly you guys can hit me up. I think you found this through LinkedIn. So by all means, hit me up if you have any additional questions on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer them for you. But I appreciate you jumping on and listening to this. I will have this entire recording posted on my website, not on my website, on my YouTube channel, Leverage UTV, and I will probably also post it on LinkedIn as well, just so that people can catch it if they want to get more information. So thank you so much for participating in this with me. I appreciate you jumping on. And I hope that I will see you at one of our Anger Solutions trainings coming down the road. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Julie. That was very good.
Take care.
Okay. Where is the training?
Oh, the training is in Niagara. It's in, if you're familiar with Niagara Falls, my office is about 10 minutes away from Niagara Falls by car, and we'll have the training here. If the registrations exceed a certain number, I will move it to a different location, probably a hotel, where we can use a larger meeting room and get catering and all that kind of stuff, so we don't have to worry about that. But if it's a group smaller than 10, then we will have it at the training room in my office and do it here. So the address is 3340 Schmoen Parkway. It's in Thorold, Ontario, which is where Brock University is. And like I say, it's about 10-15 minutes drive to the falls from here.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.